Welcome to episode 5 of Slash Strange here on the / network. It doesn't really involve any one thing.
Okay.
We got a story. It's just a story I came across. I made some notes on it. I'm going to tell it. I didn't even told Tommy. Tommy has no idea.
Yeah, I'm just like you. I'm just here to hear the story.
He's here to have the nightmare times. So the story has a lot of what I call nightmare fuel in it.
Good.
So, turn off the lights like you're playing an old school Resident Evil.
Maybe listen to this right when you're getting ready to go to sleep.
Right before bed is the best time.
You have to work. If you have to work really early in the morning, do that. Do this then. Yeah.
Right. That way you get a full hour and a half of sleep tonight.
Yep.
So this is going to be just a little story episode, probably a little shorter than most of ours. And yeah, I think that covers it.
All right, let's do it.
Let's start the interesting and intriguing story of Donald Kemp disappearance. This is not 100% like some of the disappearances we did last time. The story is a little bit more. So Donald Kemp worked for like an ad agency. He was like an ad guy in New York City. And he was apparently very, very good. He was in a car accident and he died, and that's the story.
All right, sweet.
So see you guys next time. No, so he was in a car accident and he had some pretty serious damage done to him, and he was out of work for a while. And he was also obsessed with Lincoln and the death of Lincoln especially. So one day he decides, November 1982, that he's going to sell pretty much everything he owns, drive out to Wyoming, and write this book that he'd been collecting notes for forever on Lincoln's death.
Okay.
So November 15th, he stops at a museum in Wyoming and goes to an exhibit on Lincoln and leaves his briefcase there. Forgets his briefcase.
Okay.
So the next day, his car is found on an off-ramp roughly, probably about 40 miles away from any like society. I mean, it's Wyoming. There's lots of stretches of country.
Yeah.
So like the nearest town is about 40 miles in any direction. And his car is just on an off-ramp. Pulled over to the side of the road. Car is running. Clothing and items from the car just strung out all over the road. And Don is nowhere to be found.
And the car's running?
Running.
So, obviously couldn't have been too long since they found him, because the thing couldn't be running for 30 hours or something weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long the average car in 82 could run on a full half, on a thing. From the car, there is a single set of footprints leading out into a prairie.
Okay. There was a weird noise.
So, they follow these footprints for a while, and they find a duffel bag set next to.
Anytime you find a duffel bag, it's just bad news. Nobody ever finds a duffel bag of somebody's that's like, oh, this explains everything. Got it.
So, and some of his belongings were in the duffel bag, but the footprints just stop. And we're not talking about like in the woods and creeks and hills. We're talking about a prairie. It's pretty much a lot of open land.
Yeah. And not a lot of like predators and shit like that out there. It's just open.
6 miles from the car, there's a barn where it looks like some sticks were collected to make some sort of makeshift fire inside the barn. And some of Don's socks are found.
6 miles from the car?
Yeah.
In a barn.
Through the prairie.
Okay.
But his footprints don't come anywhere near that.
Okay.
They stop way before the barn.
So obviously he didn't walk all that way. Otherwise you would see footprints.
Yep. So they search for a few days. They even do a whole bunch of flybys. I mean, it's a giant prairie field. I mean, and it is cold. It wasn't snowing at the time of his disappearance. I don't know how if there was any snow on the ground. Wyoming in November, I assume it's snow like all the time.
Yeah.
But 3 days after he disappeared, a blizzard rolls in.
Okay.
And they have to kind of call off the search. So nothing. That's what they found: a duffel bag, some socks, and a barn 6 miles away. A trail that just stops.
And his car running.
And his car just running with shit just spewed all over the road. And a single set of footprints, so like no sign of anything like chasing him into the wilderness or anything like that.
No blood trail, no like trail of like it wasn't like, socks and shit that were strewn out, like leading to the barn, anything like that?
Nope, just a duffel bag, trail ends, barn 6 miles away. So the search stops and they kind of call it off and some time passes. So 5 months later, there's 2 sightings of Don in Casper, Wyoming. One was in a pub and one in an Abe exhibit in a different museum.
An Abraham Lincoln exhibit?
Yeah.
That makes sense that he would be there.
Right. Friend that was out of the country returns home to find several missed calls from an unlisted, from a number she doesn't recognize, who she believes was Don. The messages were short and brief, asking different things, like, giving a number to call back. And this lady has an unlisted number.
Okay.
So only people who know her have it.
What year was this?
82.
Okay, so at that point, there's no caller ID, no shit like that. There's like phone book. So if it's like unlisted, there's no way to find it.
Right.
There's no, yeah.
So the phone company traces down the calls, and they came from a trailer in Wyoming from a gentleman named Mark Dennis. Now, Mark is interviewed by the police. He says he has no knowledge of the calls. He doesn't know why they're showing up on his record or his bill, and he didn't make them. And after being interviewed by the police a few times, the cops were pretty convinced that he had nothing to do with whatever happened to Don.
Dude, this story is like crazy. It takes a lot of crazy
I'm
turns.
on page 1.
I know, but I'm saying already there's just so much mystery.
Don's sister said that Mark looked almost identical to her brother.
To Don?
To Don. Like if you compared high school photos of the two, they could be twins.
Alright. I feel like there's going to be a lot of me being like, alright.
Don's mom kind of goes out to this area and is hard-pressed interviewing people, talking to people. And she kind of harasses Mark a little bit to the point he gets a lawyer, and within like a month of being initially interviewed, moves away, just leaves.
Okay.
4 years later.
So original disappearance was
82,
okay,
November.
but then it was like 5 months later when all this stuff that we just said happened.
Right.
Now 6 years later? 4 years later.
4 years later. 4 years from the day he disappeared, not from the 5 months.
Okay.
Don's body is found not very far from where his car was abandoned.
Alright.
All right.
Why did I not find this earlier? I don't know.
His body is in pristine condition. Cops believe that he'd been there the whole time. That he died within 3 days of leaving his car. There's no sign of any animals that have messed with his corpse for 4 years of sitting there. And there's no way that snow had him like covered entirely for 4 years.
Yeah.
And the trail of footprints just stopped. So there was nothing that led them anywhere there.
Yeah.
And there was no sign of them seeing them when they were doing all the flyovers and everything.
Alright.
Alright. So, the family...
Page 1.
I'm at the end of page 1.
Oh my god.
The family is contacted from an expert professor from the Smithsonian who asked to see the remains of Don. And this guy is like a master of anatomy and anthropology. Alright. He concludes that there's no way that Don's body had been laying there in the open for 4 years, or 3 years in some days, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He also notices that his body is missing the hyoid bone, which is what supports your tongue and your neck.
Okay.
And that there is a perfect, tiny, round hole in his skull. That there was nothing that he knew that could make such a hole. So, okay. So let's rewind. All right, we're going to go back a bit. Now, before Don left initially for his trip, his horrible trip to Wyoming, he gave his sister a book called The Universe. And he pointed out a page on this thing called the Pleiades. And he said he wasn't sure why, but that she may need this one day.
Dude, alright. This is so crazy.
So, Don's sister is contacted by a UFO group. Now, they were in the area at the time when Don disappeared. And I had a little bit of trouble with tracking down the Pleiades because, like, so we're not huge alien guys.
Yeah.
But I know the Universe book and the Pleiades, it has something to do with some beliefs of, like, origins of aliens, I do believe. Please correct me 100% if I am wrong. I don't mind being called out on this. It's not my field.
Yeah.
But a UFO group, and they were in that area, not too far from where Don went missing, doing research on cow mutilations that have been going on in that area. Don's sister, there was no ancient aliens and all these other crazy mainline shits.
So this is like 1982.
Right. So being like aliens, you're still kind of being like, oh, okay, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. So she kind of just blew that off. But I know that those two elements are tied together. This information about you might need this stuff on the Pleiades one day and this UFO group thing.
Yeah.
So we'll just throw that over to the side.
Okay.
So there's your little alien dash.
Alright. Little dash of aliens.
Little dash of aliens.
Sprinkle it in.
Before Don had left, also, him and his sis went to this museum on an Abe Lincoln thing, because obviously the dude's really into this, and he's writing a book on it. So, and when they get there, there's a lady that works there, and she asked Don, she's like, hey, you're the one writing the book, right, on Abe? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, well, this lady contacted us, and she wanted us to give you this message.
Okay.
And it was just her information, wanted to call. So they contact the lady, and she is a psychic.
And she doesn't know him at all, it's just some random lady.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, you're right.
Never knew him beforehand. And that she had a little bit of info that she had been getting from the other side on Lincoln's death. And she wants him to come over and do a seance. And he is like, I can't pass this up, this is going to be cool as shit.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't pass it up to do it at least once, just to kind of see
Yeah,
it.
just to like be like, alright,
So-
this is bullshit or what?
He sets up a camera and films and tapes the, because in the 80s there was a lot of really cheap cameras that came out, but they only did video, not sound.
Okay.
And I believe he had a non-sound one, so that's why he was also recording the audio while filming it with something else. So his sister recalls that because she went with him, and that during the seance, the lady kind of started losing her shit a little bit, started speaking in a very odd tone, and in a rhetoric and with wording that was not from the time period, really, not from the 80s. She was speaking older English for the most part.
Weird.
And she started giving out info on both Don and his sister that she couldn't have known. I'm not talking about like, your mom's birthday is April 5th. I'm talking like when you and Don were 12, you like were out in the woods and found a dead dog. You know what I mean? Not that actual story, but I'm talking about like things that like you and your friend know, but you never tell anyone type information.
Yeah.
That really, and then she started convulsing and choking, and they saw what appeared to be a black line forming on her neck, as though like pressure was being pushed hard against her neck. Don grabbed everyone up from the table, huddled into a corner, and started doing, like, the rooms, like, started getting cold, and he starts chanting the Lord's Prayer, because he was like, I don't know what else to do here. And everything kind of, like, dies down and settles. His sister never went to another seance after this.
I wouldn't either.
Don kept in contact with the particular.
I'm not going to one after hearing this.
So Don keeps in contact with her for several, for a while, and does other seances and things of that nature. So it brings us up pretty close to right before Don left. Don tells his sister that he found something very odd and disturbing on Lincoln's death, but never told her exactly what. And that he was a little nervous about discovering the information. And then he leaves to go write his book. And we all know what happens from that point.
Yeah.
So after he disappeared, his mom had Don's friend go and drive Don's car home.
Okay.
Don's friend picks up the car out in Wyoming and drives it back. He stops at a hotel for the night. And when he wakes up and he comes out to the car in the morning, it's been broken into, and a bunch of research of Don's have been taken. Not all of it, not anywhere near all of it, but the car had been broken into and sifted through, and some of the research was missing. So he drives it home and gets it all the way there, and he parks it at Don's mom's house. And the night that he parks in the driveway, the mom comes out the next morning and the car had been broken into again and sifted through. So they end up taking a bunch of the items from the car and other belongings that he had and put them in storage. And the storage unit was broken into and ransacked.
What the fuck? Locked shit?
Well, it was broken into.
Lock it again. What?
So they end up gathering up what remaining research there was, not all of it, a bunch of the paperwork, and they give it to a historian. And he took it, and a week after receiving the information, he was killed in a car accident.
Okay. A roller coaster.
And then a gentleman named Frank received audio tapes that Don had made going over some of his research, and Frank's house burned down with him inside of it.
So really, this is starting to take on like a cursed item type of deal, because the research, anybody who comes in contact with research gets hurt.
And some of the remaining pages that were left were donated to a Civil War store, and the owner of the store passed away in an accident, and the papers were never seen after that. Once all of the research that Don had collected had disappeared, gone missing, were just, it was all gone, all been taken by whoever is doing this, whatever is doing this. It stopped. No more deaths, no more break-ins, nothing weird or crazy. And it kind of is the end of the story there.
Okay.
What did Don know? Was the seance responsible for what happened to him? Did they bring something forth?
Yeah.
Did he know something about Lincoln that we're not supposed to know? Was it an aliens? Or was the aliens in the seance just misdirects for some people who didn't want this information getting out, or even just a guy who wanted the information for himself? We'll never know. There's no way we'll ever know.
Yeah. But if I'm leaning more towards there was information that somebody wanted to cover up, whether that be, who knows, whether it's humans or not humans or whatever, something was found that needed to be covered up, because I don't feel like...
Was Lincoln an alien?
Maybe. Who knows?
So this story
It's crazy, dude. It's a roller coaster of a story.
Like, you've probably already
That was
forgotten
on
that there was a guy who lived in a trailer who looked identical to him that phone
Yeah, I
calls
know.
came from.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many pieces of the story that are just like what? And if someone did murder him, why drop him off fucking 4 years later?
Yeah. And like the little hole in his skull.
And missing his thyroid bone?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know, dude. Shit's crazy.
yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, honestly, like, if you know more about this story, or especially on the Pallades thing, my one gap here, please let me know.
Yeah. If you want to hear more stories like this or more episodes, just hit that like, subscribe button.
Yeah, hit like and subscribe. Like I said, this would be a quick, short
Yeah.
thing. But no, this story creeps me out, man.
It boggles my mind, dude. It's crazy.
Maybe it's simple. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing pieces that I'm just not connecting.
I don't think
Or-
so. If he is missing pieces, let him know.
Well, no, I mean, like, I'm not connecting dots or something,
Yeah.
but there's so many weird things.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Alright. Well,
Have fun sleeping tonight.
Yeah. Sufficiently creepy. We'll see you next week.
Good night.